Yeah, so I guess I'm going to give a personal face to all of that medical information that Dr. Clark just gave you. I want to start by thanking all of you for coming. Okay, now I'm going to For some of you, it may seem like you're here for just another fundraiser, but for me and my family, you're here for Trey and for all the other kids with MPS, and that means everything to us. So I'm Trey's mom, and Ryan is filming right there, and then my sister, Ryan's husband, my sister Michelle, my dad Jack, my mom Heather, and then family friends Jackie and Neil and Grizz and Brooke. Yeah, so I'm here to tell you about our past year, which has been probably the craziest year of my life. Trey didn't get diagnosed. Well, we started diagnosis last February on Valentine's Day last year, and before that time we knew nothing about the society. We'd never heard of MPS at all. And until then, life had been pretty typical for a new family. I was at home, Ryan worked, and it was awesome. Being a mom was the best job I've ever had, and it was just a whole bunch of fun. And I guess over the first 2 years, we did the pediatrician. Trey had a big head, he had an umbilical hernia, and he started getting ear infections around 18 months. And every pediatrician we went to, and I was pretty crazy about that, I went to lots of pediatricians with lots of different opinions. They all said, this is common childhood stuff, don't worry about it, and they waved it off, and so I didn't think anything of it. And it wasn't until we met Dr. Thiessen, who kind of, we went for another opinion on Trey's umbilical hernia, and that's when our whole life started in this world. Yeah, he just took one look at Trey, and I guess we've been told and now know that kids with MPS have a look, and he just sort of put it all together and sent us for an ultrasound at Children's. And so Tuesday was when we saw Dr. Thiessen, Thursday was an ultrasound, Friday Dr. Thiessen called us back and told us he has an enlarged liver, and we had no idea what that meant, and that was a pretty awful weekend. We just tried not to think about it because we had no idea what an enlarged liver could mean. And then Monday is when the end of the world hit, and I'll never forget it. Like, to this day, when new families get diagnosed, I go right back there, and it was awful. Okay, let's see, where am I? A little distracted. I won't give you details from that Monday appointment. It was with Dr. Stockler, who I am so happy she's who diagnosed us. She did it gently, and she's been wonderful all along. But I remember leaving the hospital that first day, wondering why the walls weren't crashing down. It felt like they were. Like I remember leaving, and biochemical disease is right across from Starbucks at Children's Hospital. And I remember leaving, just seeing people drinking coffee and talking, and wondering how they didn't, like, how did they not know? Like, my whole world was over, and it had just come crashing down, and people were talking, and it was completely surreal. And being in that area still gives me a funny feeling, because it just ended. Like, it was over. And standing up here today, like, it's strange. It's a really strange feeling, because it honestly felt like the world was over. My child's life was over. It was done. And it was, yeah, it was a hard time. And then for the next couple of weeks, I guess, Ryan and I were pretty devastated. We cried all day and all night, and didn't sleep, and we made meals and took the kids to Science World in the park and all of that stuff, because life goes on when you have kids. But we didn't stop thinking about it. Activities didn't distract us. Yeah, our kid had just been given a death sentence. Our kid had just been given a death sentence, and that didn't leave our minds. Part of what made it so hard was that we never saw it coming. One example is that right from the time he could hold a ball, Trey was playing soccer, shooting hoops, hitting a ball with a bat, and by the time he was 18 months, he was as good at any ball sport as the 4-year-olds at the park. That he was just gifted. And top that off with him being in the 99th percentile for height and growth and all of that, we thought we had a professional sports player on our hands. And then following that first appointment with biochemical disease, we had a whole bunch of doctor's appointments, and I just remember x-rays and cardiology and ophthalmology and ultrasounds, and we were all over the hospital. Now we know the hospital very well, and we had no idea. So we were trying to deal with this devastation of being diagnosed, and then in this new world that we had no idea about, and it was just completely overwhelming. And that sort of, with my family who's so supportive and wonderful, we've done a bit of research and found the MPS Society and found out that Kirsten was in North Van. And so we gave her a call. And within days she was at our house. And I think part of the biggest thing for having her over for me was that she just got it. I remember not wanting to talk to anybody because what we just got hit with was every parent's worst nightmare. You know, you talk about when you're pregnant, we just want a healthy kid, and I just didn't want to talk to anybody with a healthy kid because I just knew that they'd feel sorry for us, and they just had no clue what it was like getting a diagnosis like this. And Kirsten came over and she cried, and I just remember just finally like being able to relax a bit because she got it and she knew, and it was just so nice because with rare diseases, nobody has a clue. Your family has never heard of it, your friends have never heard of it. So I just wasn't alone anymore. There was somebody else that knew what I was going through. She also gave us a whole bunch of information and contacts, so I didn't have to walk around in this crazy medical haze as much. Yeah, meeting Kirsten was just so comforting and helpful. I can't say enough. And then a few days or weeks later, my mom was checking out the internet and found Simon Eibel's email address on the MPS Society website, and she emailed him. Simon Eibel is he's a board member with MPS too, and I didn't email him, but the story I heard goes something like this. Half an hour after my mom sent the email, Simon called with his mom Marie, and all I got was a phone call afterwards, and it was my mom in tears. And they were tears of hope, and up until then, we didn't see any hope, and it was the first time this feeling entered our lives, and you know, our outlook until then was grim. We were told to enjoy the years we had left with Trey. His hands would curl, his brain would deteriorate, he would stop growing, his features would coarsen, his organs would start to fail. Like, the list just went on and on and on, and that's all we saw, and we didn't see any hope. And Simon and Marie are who gave us our first ray of hope, and they told us about how Marie was told 6 times that Simon had less than a year to live. They told us about kids being awful to Simon in school, and you know, I've heard the stories now after meeting them and talking to them, but there's a lot of them. And the thing is Simon's now 29 or so, and thriving. He's on ERT, he has a job, and he has a life, and he's one of the kindest, most inspiring, most wonderful people I've ever met. And we've now met Simon and Marie a number of times, but I remember after meeting them the first time, thinking that Marie was just a powerhouse and, you know, wanting to follow in her footsteps, and thinking that if Trey turned into the next Simon Eibel, I couldn't be happier. Like that, he was just a wonderful person, and so that's the first time hope ever came into our lives, and it had arrived. And then a few weeks later, it all happened pretty fast, was the MPS Cup, and it was our first event, and it was overwhelming. We saw other kids with MPS, and that was really hard. But more so, I was just amazed at how many people showed up to support a disease that no one's heard of. How many people and doctors and hockey players who have probably so many events to go to and so many things to do, and drug company representatives and everyone who gave up their day and night to come and support MPS. There were periods of the game that were so fun and exciting, and Trey had a blast. He got to go in the change room with Ryan because Ryan played and that sort of thing. But then every once in a while it just hit me that like they're here for my kid. Like, we were only about 3 months into diagnosis, and it was just really, really, really overwhelming. And then it was the gala, and Kirsten mentioned Jean Linden's speech, and that was hard to hear. A lot of it was hard to hear. Just even when you're new to diagnosis, hearing like the cold hard facts was pretty hard. Anyways, during Jean Linden's speech, I remember her crying, and I thought to myself as she was in tears, thinking, didn't her son get diagnosed 8 years ago? Why is she still crying about this? And it took me a little while to realize that you don't just adjust to diagnosis and then life's back to the way it is. Although we have found a new version of normal, life will never be back to the normal it was before because MPS is progressive. And, you know, we have yearly checkups and that sort of thing, but once in a while they'll say, you know, his eyes aren't looking so good, or, you know, this has in the past year this has happened to his heart or something like that. And so, you know, there's blows that hit along the way, and each blow that hits, you get over a little bit quicker, but it's never easy. During our first year of diagnosis, this past year, we also attended our first MPS Society Family Conference in Ontario, where we met a lot of families affected by MPS. We've met a lot of MPS experts from around the world, which has been amazing. I'm amazed by the community, maybe because it's such a rare disease. Dr. Clark didn't say it's so rare, but at least it seems like it's rare, because there's not that many. Everybody, like I know most families in Canada with the disease now. Yeah, we also, we fought for and got Trey started on enzyme replacement therapy. The first boy to start ERT for Hunter syndrome in Canada who wasn't on a trial. We went to North Carolina for transplant assessment with the financial help of the society, which was a huge relief when you're going through something that emotional. Having just a little bit of financial help, you know, just reduces the stress that much. And so that was a huge help. And so through all of this, the MPS Society was there and was an amazing, amazing support. And I guess that's sort of my point of all of this is I can't say enough about how much the MPS Society support, information, events, and members have helped me adjust to diagnosis. It's been there when we needed it, and so far in this past year we've needed a lot, and not all families use it as much as others, but just having it there is a huge peace of mind, so that if we do need it, or you do have questions, or all of a sudden something comes up and you need financial support or emotional support or anything, that they're there, that Kirsten's there. And it provides sanity, it provides education, it provides awareness, and it provides hope. It took me about a year to adjust emotionally to diagnosis. And during that time, the society played a huge, huge part in helping me survive, which for about that year was all I was trying to do, was just survive. And since then, I've started focusing on fundraising. And for me, that's pretty much what it's about now, and that's why I'm here. Besides, of course, loving and hugging my kids and family and all that sort of stuff. But fundraising is where hope comes from, and hope is what I'm full of now. Hope that all the wonderful, amazing, and brilliant doctors out there and in this room will find a cure for MPS. I believe that they will, and I believe that Trey will be okay. And that's why you being here means so much to me. The support that you give the society gives me hope. Hope that more and more people will know what the society will know about the society and what it does. Hope that one day parents will get a diagnosis of MPS, knowing that it's not a big deal because there is a cure. You represent hope. Hope that Trey's going to live a long, happy, and fulfilled life. And when it comes to parenting, that's all I want for my kids. And you're giving me that tonight. The belief that I'm going to be able to watch Trey grow up and play sports and get in fights with his brother and almost sister. And get married and travel and do all the things that he wants to do. And I can't thank you enough for giving that to me. I don't think anyone could give me more, so thank you very much.